Well, thank you for inviting me this evening. Of the many thousands of rain gardens that are installed around the United States of America, the Birchwood Woodland Restoration Rain Garden is believed to be the first that applies both advanced rain garden concepts and woodland restoration practices into a single project. Okay. This is a Whippany River Watershed Action Committee project. It was designed and installed by Garden Magic, and it was put on Borough Mountain Lakes property. It was a portion of the funding came from a New Jersey Conservation Foundation Franklin Parker Conservation Excellence Grant. This was installed in 2020. And so, as you may remember, we had a global pandemic going on, which meant that normally the way you install a rain garden with lots of volunteer effort wasn't available. Our ability to do that was both limited and so most of the installation was done by Garden Magic with its volunteer effort. We did get some help from Mountain Lakes Boy Scout Troop 41. They were limited to one Boy Scout and one parent at a time. And we got a little bit of help from the Mountain Lakes High School Environmental Club. As we talk about this, you'll see that we had an awful lot of rocks and gravel. So we had some heavy work support from Menard Construction, and we got some compost from Morris County Municipal Utilities Authority. The Environmental Commission helped with some of the planning, and they're now the lead group for maintenance. This project, the Birchwood Woodland Restoration Rain Garden, won the 2020 Governor's Environmental Excellence Award for healthy ecosystems and habitats. And really the reason we won the award is because we elevated habitat and resource conservation into what's normally a rain in a garden, made that an equal part of the water resources aspect of it. And so what you would say is we won the award for the prototype habitat rain garden, the first of its kind. At the same time, we designed this with some advanced rain garden concepts. And those came about from the previous year. Garden Magic put a rain garden at the St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Mountain Lakes and won the Governor's Award for Water Resources the year before. And that was really the defining example of the next generation of rain gardens. In a lot of ways, now that we've brought the habitat into the mix and the soil, it really is a complete rain garden. Is everybody familiar with what a basic rain garden is? I think I'll go through a few slides so that we're on the same page before I get into the Birchwood details. So the first step in addressing stormwater is to disconnect impervious surfaces, which is roofs, driveways, parking lots, from surface water, lakes, streams, rivers, and really the storm drains that go directly into those surface waters. In this picture, the rain is falling on the roof, and before it came down, it was collected in the gutters and went down the downspout. And originally it went down the driveway and into the storm drain, carrying with it the oils and any other contaminants and the silt and any other contaminants that picked up. And then there's a direct line from the storm drain to the river or the lake. Now, in this example, the storm drain has been turned, that downspout's been turned, so that the stormwater now goes into a rain garden, which collects and holds the water and then allows it to infiltrate. Some of the water gets pulled up by the plants, and any that seeps out the bottom then becomes base flow through the river and the lakes. This is the basic rain garden. The stormwater goes into a constructed shallow basin that's designed to hold the water. When the water goes into the rain garden, it soaks into the ground over several hours. Rain gardens are usually landscaped so that they have a better appearance, and they often are planted with native plants because they have evolved so that they can handle both wet weather, wet soil, and dry soil, and they also contribute to habitat. Usually there's 3 zones that are in a basic rain garden. There's the bottom or the base, which has the most water and the wettest soils. And then along the sides where there's a slope and there's less water there than the top or the buffer zones, which is the driest part of the rain garden.
What's amended soil?
Amended soil is if the soil doesn't, for a lot of reasons, you amend the soils. It can be because you need better infiltration. It can be because you want more nutrients in the soil to support the plants. In our case, at Birchwood, we amended the soil by adding some compost. And you'll see very clearly why that is when you get there. So rain gardens protect watersheds naturally. This is your first picture of the Birchwood rain garden. And what the rain gardens do is they attenuate the stormwater, help the water infiltrate. They take up water contaminants. The native plants take up the water and the nutrients of the contaminants, and then they provide habitat.
If you're putting amended soil in for nutrients, etc., how often do you have to add, nutrients and stuff?
Well, occasionally, one of the things that is considered every year as part of maintenance is whether you want to add compost or mulch. Okay. We have not added any since we put in the Birchwood rain garden. So this picture is beginning of our discussion of the Birchwood rain garden. And you'll see this is the source of the stormwater before we put in the rain garden. On the left picture, our back is to, we're standing in the Birchwood Lake parking lot. Our back is towards Birchwood Lake. And at the lake, there's a beach, there's swimming lanes, there's a lifeguards shed, there's a concession stand, a pavilion, and there's trails that go around Birchwood Lake, that go all the way up to the Torrent. So it's a very popular area. And you'll notice in this picture that the parking lot is paved on the driving areas, but right in front of us is gravel. So all the cars are parked on gravel. That'll be a significant thing that we talk about later. But the water, the rain garden is put in on the upper left side across the road in the upper left-hand part of that picture. And that road is West Shore Drive. The right-hand picture is a zoom in across that way, and where the water comes off of West Shore Drive and into a small strip of land before it dumps down a hill about 20 feet into Crystal Lake. And the spot we're looking at is where the majority of the water was going down the hill most recently before we put in the rain garden. The parking lot is large. Only a portion of the stormwater from the parking lot goes that way. Much of the rest of it goes on the other side of the street into a wetland area, which works very well for taking the stormwater. This drains about 9,000 square feet, which is about a fifth of an acre. This really is an unprecedented site. The picture we're looking at here is where the rain garden is now. From the bottom of the picture is about where the inlet is. And the first big tree, you can see 2 trunks, but there's really 3 trunks there. That's a big red oak, that's about in the middle. And then the next tree you see just to its left is about 100 feet away and just about where the overflow is. The width of this strip is about 20 feet. So it's 20 by 100, it's about 2,000, nominally 2,000 square feet. And it's a very long, skinny rain garden that you wouldn't normally design that way. You'd much rather the water to go in from the side, on the long side. Before before 2019, most of the water ran down the hill just adjacent to that three-trunk red oak. But in 2019, they repaved West Shore Drive, and it changed the flow. Although they just regraded it, they just took the old asphalt off and repaved over it. It did change where it did it. So instead of the water going down at that place, it started going down in new places, very new erosion. And the sad part about this, so the frustrating part about it, is with a little bit of additional thought and not much extra work, they could have raised the side of it, and all the stormwater would have gone to the other side of the road towards the wetland, which would have been a great place for it, rather than directly in the lake. This is a woodland site. And normally you wouldn't put a rain garden in a woodland site because you try to stay away from trees. You want to protect the trees, and to dig around them often will compromise the trees. We knew we had to be very careful going in there, and we're going to plan to hand dig the basin. The other thing about a shady place is that you have to pick different plants in your rain garden than most traditional ones, which are put generally in the sun. So here are the challenges. If you start on the left picture, we're now looking back towards Birchwood Lake. We're looking in the other direction, and you can actually see the sheds back there. And this is where the water comes off of the parking lot into just about where the inlet is. The next picture is close to what we just showed, and where it goes down the hill before we built it. And then a picture of Crystal Lake, which is generally a very clean lake, except for all the water that's going down off of the Birchwood Lake parking lot. So one of the big issues is that there's a lot of very fast flowing water when it comes in, causes the severe erosion, and then all the pollutants that come off of the lake or off of the parking lot, pollutants, sediment, nutrients, oils, chemicals. And the sediment turned out to be a lot bigger issue than we anticipated because of the gravel that was there. So the first step we took is, okay, we have to stop the erosion. So we built several dams along the side, covered them with geotextile and put rocks behind them. This is the biggest one, and it doesn't look particularly big, but the depth of that is about 4 feet, and it's probably about 10 feet wide. So I mean, it's a really and we put pressure treated wood in there. And then the other picture shows us starting to delineate where the rain garden would go. Our plan was originally to just build a berm primarily to hold the water, but you'll see that changed quickly. As soon as we started doing some digging, we found, much to our surprise, that surprise is hidden up there, is that half of the rain garden area was filled with discarded rocks. These weren't native rocks. These were, they look like cut rocks or crushed rocks, but they were big, and then gravel. So it became apparent to us that we wouldn't have any infiltration if we left that there, and we wouldn't be able to plant anything on top of rocks and gravel. So all of a sudden we had to take out the gravel and the rocks. Now we put it all to good use. The gravel we set aside on the left picture, and then we took it to support some trail restoration. The other rocks, you'll see, we put it behind the dam, and we put it as the inlet. The dam people joke to us about us building Hoover Dam. We put so many rocks up there. And the main thing that we learned from counting this is that we really had to spend a lot of effort conserving the trees because they were in a whole lot worse shape than we expected. So our basin before we got finished got tested a couple times. This was Tropical Storm Faye, which was July of 2020. We got 2.4 inches, and it held up well. You can see the largest dam on the left, and the outfall is in the upper left-hand corner, and it held very well. We had another tropical storm, Isaias, about 3 weeks later in August, and they had another 2 inches and got tested. So you've heard me talk about woodland restoration practices. And it's probably worth pointing out that woodland restoration in other parts of the country are used not just to recreate habitat, but also as a stormwater management method. The Missouri Botanical Gardens is a big advocate of this when they talk about their different stormwater practices, where they say you can't put a rain garden. You should, because it's a woodland, you should try to restore it. And the reason restoration helps with stormwater is that if you put in more understory plants, you get more roots. And roots provide a way of infiltration, and additional plants and biomass takes up more water and more nutrients and contaminants. So woodland restoration alone is a viable stormwater management method. We couldn't do that here because the water was running downhill and eroding the bank. So we had to build a rain garden in order to do a woodland restoration. So the combination of the two, the rain garden held the water, improved the soil, and managed the water for so the plants could thrive. And the plants added stability and infiltration, long-term infiltration, and also took up water and some of the chemicals. So, the approach to this was really all about saving what we had, making it better, and then expanding on it in terms of the habitat preservation and expansion. And we took a bunch of steps, but we really had to work hard to keep the trees that we had and make them better. We had to do all that before we started adding understory plants. So what did we do to save the trees? On the left, remember the three trunk red oak that I talked about? That picture on the left is some of the roots from that tree. And we ended up taking gravel and rocks out from above it and below it by hand. Because there were not a lot of roots on this great big old oak tree. And so we really, in the end, helped the health of this tree. And we added in topsoil and compost. So we amended the soil. We replaced some of the soil in order to help that tree. The second picture is a little more deceiving. These rocks at the bottom of the picture are part of the ballast behind the dam. So we're looking down the hill, and several of the trees where the water had gone had eroded away. So they had almost no surface roots, and we added a combination of sticks and soil and compost to reinforce the soil, which was going to enhance the root growth, and so that they would basically build their own shallow roots again and become stronger and stabler. We use compost in many different ways. We got that from the county. It's great stuff. And we top dressed all the trees and mixed it in with we amended the soil with compost. So the habitat we created these are the plants right after we put them in. And really all of the shrubs that we added to the basin were going to add, when they flowered, they would attract pollinators, and they all were berry producing shrubs, so that when they were in fruit, they would attract birds and small animals. Some of the plants we put in there, we have elderberry and blueberry and chokeberry, winterberry. We have a couple kinds of viburnum, possum paw, and arrowwood. We have a couple of dogwoods, silky dogwoods and red osier dogwoods, witch hazel. We initially put in about 125 plants, and have added a whole bunch in the last couple of years since. Most rain gardens, by design and by the manuals, put in native plants. But making good habitat is really more than just putting in native plants. You have to have the right soil conditions. Most of the rain garden manuals suggest that you amend the soil so that you get good infiltration initially. And what you really want to do is amend the soil so that the plants do well and survive, because long-term that infiltration is not by how coarse the soil is, it's how well the roots are growing and provide channels for the water to infiltrate. And so we put a lot of effort into making sure that we have the right soil, pick the right complementary plants, and position the plants in a way that maximizes the habitat. So once you elevate habitat capacity and function to the same importance of rain garden, and you deal with the soil for plant vitality, then you end up with really quite a complete rain garden. So in addition to saying this is the prototype habitat rain garden, it is also a good example of a complete rain garden. Here's some of the things we saw early on: the red-tailed or young red-tailed hawk flying over. The turtle, which is all kind of wet and dirty, is called a stink pot. It's a musk turtle. The toad that's on the right was always in the compost pile. We had a big pile of compost that we used. And then a green frog in the bottom, and he would show up. Actually, that's a she. Showed up in virtually every time it rained. The cardinal flowers, we planted the woodland asters on the left. We were there naturally. At this point, I just took this picture a week or so ago. At this point, our rain garden really looks like a vibrant woodland understory. And I think that's pretty exciting. Except for the trees, when we started, there was really almost nothing there. And we learned why, because of all the gravel and rocks after a while. But it's also pretty gratifying to realize that not just the plants that we planted, but some other native plants are coming back. The white flowers are woodland asters, and the yellow flowers are wreath goldenrods, and they're both native plants that we did not put in. So that's pretty exciting. I said that I would give you a few suggestions about how your next rain garden might be better.
How much maintenance is required of that rain garden?
I'll get to that in a minute, because that's one of the big issues about rain garden. Is it's been a disservice at how much many of the people who advocate rain gardens suggest that you don't need to do much maintenance. You don't need to do a lot, but you do need to do it, and you need to plan it, and and it's way more than nothing after a couple of years, as is sometimes touted.
Right.
So there's really a couple things that can make your rain garden better. Most rain gardens are put in A lot of them have been put in around the country and in New Jersey as demonstrations. And I've been much more of an advocate of let's put in rain gardens where we really can make a difference, and it really will help with the situation. And most rain gardens infiltrate well. I mean, that's what you do. You have a basin, and when you get water in there, it'll infiltrate. But almost no rain gardens specifically address erosion. And that's an opportunity that we have. Both of the two rain gardens that Garden Magic won their awards for, in 2019 and 2020, both specifically address erosion. And that's we really should be thinking about. It's not necessarily much more work. It's a little more planning and thinking about where do you put in a rain garden that's really going to have a maximum water quality benefit. The second thing that we fall short on is the focus on the plants, and it starts with suggesting that we put in sandy soil so that we make sure it infiltrates, rather than putting in good organic soil so that the plants do well. and after that, it's a matter of picking the right plants and the right complementary plants and putting them in a way that we get both good aesthetics and build on habitat and diversity. And then maintenance is the third thing that we fall short on. Is it seems like a lot of places expect to need less maintenance than they do. So the plant selection is not complicated, but it's not a matter of just saying, let's get a plants off of a list that are good for rain gardens and put them in. You need to find the right plant for the right place. You know, the sun, the soil, the water, the wind, the protection, has to have the right hardiness. And then if you want it to be aesthetic, you pick things like color and bloom time and all of that. Now we don't have a very showy rain garden at Birchwood because it's in the shade, and they all flower, but they're not showy flowers. A lot of other rain gardens have the opportunity to have really vibrant colors if you spend some time. Plus, in a rain garden, you have to worry about moisture extremes. You know, in the three different zones, the base is wetter than the sides, which is moderate, and then drier at the top.
What happens to a rain garden this past summer? We had a drought. You know,
you water.
You have the water.
You know, you water.
You have to water.
You have to water. You want your plants to survive. And we in the Birchwood one, we were lucky. It probably got watered twice. And there's no way to water it easily. We carried buckets from across the park. I wasn't that far, but we only had to put water on parts of it because the front end still stayed wet longer because it was shadier. The downstream side, which gets less water, was also a little sunnier, got a little more sun, so it dried out. So it wasn't a hard thing, but you have to keep an eye on it. One more comment about plant lists. You find lots of plant lists for what you put in your rain garden. And the example is that yellow flower is a marsh marigold. It's one of my favorites, but it's an obligate wet pond plant. And rain gardens are not constantly underwater. They're not a wetland. They dry out in during droughts. And so a marsh marigold in most rain gardens will not survive unless you play some tricks on it, which are possible, but not normal. And it's covered up the word intermix plantings to make it all work. The more I do this, the more I'm convinced that we really need to intermix our plantings, which is done almost nowhere in garden design or landscapers or anything. If you look at what a landscaper does or a beginner gardener, they will take a group of plants, 3, 5. There's always an odd number. That's another issue. 3, 5, 7, and they put them in a group. And they do another set of that over there and over there. And so just from an aesthetic standpoint, that's not a way to have a nice looking garden. It blooms in stages And what you want to do is intermix them so that your eye, so visually it ties the whole garden together, and you have something blooming in your whole garden the whole time. When you start talking about habitat and native plants and rain gardens, it becomes even more important. From a habitat standpoint, if you put all of one type of plant together, you don't have the same habitat capacity, so it functions less well. And a quick example of that is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Coca-Cola Flowers, a common garden plant, native plant, put in rain gardens a lot. Blooms beautifully with a purplish pink flower, it kind of looks like a daisy shape. They bloom in the summer, they go to seed in late July and in August. And the goldfinch, our state bird, loves Coca-Cola flower seeds. And if you put all of them together, you might get 2 goldfinches on there at a time. But if you spread out those same 5 plants, you get 2 goldfinches here, 2 goldfinches there. So you have more capacity to feed more birds if you spread out. Now, it even goes farther, is even more important when you start thinking about the biodiversity, not just of the plants above ground, but also of the ecosystem below ground with microorganisms. If they have a healthy ecosystem, your plants and the roots are a lot healthier. They break down chemical compounds better. And so, and if you intermix your roots in your rain garden by different species, you have different lengths of roots, and you have better pathways for infiltration. So there's so many different reasons. I can't actually think of a good reason to clump your plants together, even though that's still the standard practice in garden design and everything else. So plan for regular and ongoing maintenance. This is so important. And we were hesitant to even go forward with this project until we could find somebody committed. And we ended up having the Environmental Commission for Mountain Lakes is taking the lead on taking care of rain gardens. Somebody always has to be committed to maintaining the rain garden. And it's not hard, but it's no different than any other landscape area or garden. It needs to be maintained. And yet, it's one of the most common things you hear is, oh, after a couple of years, you won't even need to do anything with the rain garden because it'll take care of itself. I don't know how many times I've heard that. And it's not just in this part of the country, it's around the country. So we have 2 lists of, one's a checklist. It's designed to help you go to a rain garden and look and see what needs doing. It's not designed for documenting anything. It's not designed for research, which a lot of other checklists are. This is a very useful list for anybody who wants to go and you check. And you look at the inlets and the outlets, you look for erosion, you look how the water's distributing, you clean up leaves and sediment, and you deal with the plants, and it tells you what to do and where, if you need help, where to go. Then we also have a seasonal calendar that says in these months you should worry about snow and salt management. Here's when you should apply your mulch. You should consider applying mulch and compost. When you should apply deer repellent and do a spring and fall cleanup. Those 2 lists were created for the Birchwood rain garden. They're applicable to virtually any rain garden, and they can be found on the Whippany River Watershed Action Committee website.
Actually, I can see it. No salt management, that's probably one of the biggest things.
Yes.
And the deer repellents.
Yes.
Now, how much so most of the water, the thing is 100 feet long. Most of the water comes in at the upper, at ground zero.
Yep.
Okay. How much, you said it was 9,000 gallons, whatever number, or whatever, I don't care what it is.
Well, 9,000 square feet.
Okay.
So, yeah, it holds.
How much water is held in there, and how much water you think leaves?
It depends on how big the rainstorm is. I have seen it does go over the overflow, but what we've done, and here is because it's up the hill, we actually directed the overflow so that it stays up along the road. We didn't plant it as a rain garden, but virtually all of it, it's infiltrated up at the top of the hill. And the interesting thing about this site is as you go farther away from from the rain garden downhill, it gets wider and wider towards the lake. So it's less of an issue too, if any of it does get applied. But we actually have a second basin that's not planted as a rain garden, but it serves as an infiltration. It's a retention basin. So that's an important thing. Most rain gardens are designed for 1.25 inches of rain. That's similar to what the stormwater quality
For how long?
for over a 2-hour period. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the same as what's in stormwater permits for municipalities for quality, not for quantity, but for quality. Okay, so an interesting thing.
Wait, on your outflow, do you have like old rocks?
Yes,
To stop any erosion?
yes.
Okay.
And we have a channel that goes through and clear that channel out. And we have some planted, but not a lot.
So how do you put them around the rocks? What do they do? I hate to use the word, but do they use herbicides?
No. One of the next generation rain garden principles is to minimize the use of rocks. We use more rocks here than I have on any other rain garden because we had them, but they are a weed magnet, and we pull the weeds by hand. Okay, so this is an interesting thing that we wanted a word for this, but it doesn't mean we couldn't make it better later. We had no idea how much silt would come off of the gravel. The fines, the silt. When we first put in this is the inlet, and we had rocks, they go downhill, which you can't quite tell from the picture, but they disrupt the flow, so they dissipate the energy. And we had it bulky, but it comes down and it would wash down and dissipate the energy so that it could then be go across the rain garden. But over a little bit of time, it wasn't very long, it started filling up with silt. And part of it is because all of the driving area is asphalt, but where all the cars parked is gravel. And it comes down through gravel into the inlet. So it filled up with silt pretty fast. And we said, oh, well, this is probably just an initial flush. And so we dug out the rocks and took out the silt and put the rocks back. And it wasn't too long that it filled up with silt again. And we decided, well, this is a maintenance thing that we don't want to have to do all the time. So we redesigned the inlet. And this is when we first put it in. And we put in something like Belgian blocks that were flat and square. We widened it out so that the water would slow down and the silt would come out. And so now there's a little table here, and every month, which is what somebody's assigned every month to take care of this rain garden, you come with a trowel and you scoop it out, and you put it in a bucket, and then it gets put back somewhere far away, but where the gravel is. And so we actually added one here, one there. We've since added a third one, and it's very simple to do. And one of the main things about maintenance in rain gardens, you want to make it easy, and it wasn't easy before. So
you're just panning for gold.
So what?
You're just panning for gold.
That's right, we're panning for gold, and it works fine, and it collects all. It's all it's always working. Now the other thing that we weren't expecting. Is that last winter the snowplow got off the road and tore up our inlet, so we had to rebuild it.
Oh.
On the left picture, which is going along West Shore Drive, towards the tree, we actually this was when we first put it in, and we've since put boulders there so that when people park along the road, they don't step into the rain garden. And the boulders were also there so the plows would know that they shouldn't plow. We couldn't put boulders in front of the inlet because the inlet, so next year we're going to put snow stakes in so that they won't do that. But it was, completely unexpected. So even if you plan for routine maintenance, there are likely to be some other things that come up. So don't expect your rain garden to be maintenance free. Now these next ones, I don't really know what to say about them. I guess was surprised. This is you can't see the top. This is the Mountain Lakes Department of Public Works rain garden. It was put in 2018. It was a Mountain Lakes Green Team and Rutgers rain garden. There were, so they put that in right along the wall. And today, that rain garden is gone. You still can see that. You still can see the basin, and so it still catches the water, still infiltrates some of it. And it has 90 feet from the building to the road, so probably it's already disconnected enough that it's not really that big of a loss. But people put a lot of energy into it, but nobody was taking care of it, and someone at some point decided to do it. Okay, so this one may surprise you. Is the same issue. This is the Hanover Township Rain Garden. The Whippinall Library. And it was also put in 2018. So there's a picture in 2019. And I was surprised to go by there. The sign's still there, but the garden's not. I don't know anything about it. No comments about it, except that, a lot of rain gardens are struggling, a lot of failing.
Because people aren't maintaining.
A lot of them are not being maintained.
People are not, they're not buying into it.
Yes.
This is what they want to do. And I can see it because I know that I know we spoke about it at one of the meetings.
Yeah.
What was before 22.
I just took this picture in the last week.
That is so sad.
So this was an action committee.
Yeah, I have a picture of us with Sal.
Yeah,
And Jim
absolutely.
and Len all in front of that when it was.
And you still have the maintenance manual on your website.
There's no plans.
So again, I don't, but it is true that rain gardens are being abandoned.
Would you be kind enough to,
Forward that
at
picture.
your leisure, send a picture of a picture of each one of them, to either Siva or to Jen?
I can screenshot the slide.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll send you this slide. Yeah,
Yeah, but if you can send it to them, so
Yeah.
that
sure.
there's a message like that.
No, I don't need an explanation.
Yeah, because I said before, from Hanover Township.
Yeah. Right, but it's again, both of these rain gardens were put in as demonstrations.
Right.
And so one question is whether this is a good demonstration if it's not still, up. Okay, so that's it. This is just a slide about us.
So how many great rain gardens do you do a year?
We've been trying to do. We turn down way more rain gardens than we do. Partly because people want to put them in wet areas or in the wrong places. I mean, we get so many referrals for rain gardens, but we don't do basic rain gardens. We really only do advanced ones. And so, these are, we do a few. And we've done two really outstanding ones that we've won governor's awards for, including this virtual one. This virtual one really is a special rain. And the other one at St. Peter's Church is special also.
Yeah, but I can see the one at Mount Lakes. I mean, you were very creative there. I mean, you saw
Yeah.
a lot of the issues. You saw the rocks. The trees. You had to take care of it, and you took the initiative and the thought process to make it better.
Right.
I have to compliment you on that.
We have a bumper sticker that says "Plants are the answer," so take one if you want. They're removable. You can contact me at Brian at Make Garden Magic. We do more than rain gardens. We actually, I do a lot of training landscapers We do garden designs. We think we have a better way of doing garden designs. And we also help do-yourself landscapers, or do-yourself gardeners a lot.
Yeah, if you ever get involved with, who was that lady with the native plants?
We
Come on, Jay, you know,
we
She's from down near Frenchtown.
yeah, I mean, we're specialists in native plants. I just gave a presentation about native.
She has a beautiful nursery of plants.
Yeah.
Every plant that I bought from her did really
Yeah,
Yeah, she
well.
came last September.
We do.
Yeah, and I
That's
walk over there, I was just there yesterday, so I walk over there all the time. I'm always taking pictures of it, it's really
Yep.
beautiful, and it's been really nice to watch it over the season.
So heavy rain gardening. This is a swamp pink, a really unusual plant. It's endangered. It only grows in the Mid-Atlantic states. Half of the populations are in New Jersey. There's a big population in Mount Olive. We have this in our rain garden behind my garage. That's where the picture is. I'm not sure if many people have endangered plants in their rain gardens.
And are there any questions on online? Okay, I don't see any questions.
Yeah, no, I don't have a question.
Okay, thanks, Mary Ellen.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And in spite of all the tech issues, but your presentation was really great. So thank you very much.
it was very interesting, thank you.
Thank you, very well done.
And yeah, like Jen and Dennis, who were disappointed about the Hanover Township.
I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, because it looked very
I don't
beautiful back in
see that.
2019.
Yeah, I don't know the reason. Just
Well,
saw it.
I don't want to know the reason either, but I want the pictures so that I can, be very sarcastic and compliment my friends.
Well, it's unfortunate, because I know, we know we put ones in the.
Yeah, but I need
Our Tiffany at the
No.
town hall, and what my experience being with this group 5 years, is every time there was like a new administration, it all depended on what the mayor wanted to do. Like, so, yeah, we'll have so-and-so take care of it, or no, we don't want anybody, or no, we're not putting any money to that, and there was no consistency of the care and the plan, right?
Yeah.
Because someone else would come in and decide it wasn't a priority.
I went by there also. Those
Yeah.
rain gardens are still there. I mean, so they're still there. I won't say they're thriving, but there's there's four rain gardens.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
There's two
two
in
in
the
front,
front
two
and
in
two-
back, we did a major
and two-
cleanup of
two in
that
the back.
last summer.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
tried.
Glenn was always asking me about,
Yeah,
what to do with.
we tried to do maintenance last year, but that fell through. I don't know if anybody did
And
anything
he
this
was
year.
trying, he was
This
getting
is-
Boy
it's not-
Scout to do it, but then the Boy Scout leader would change.
Yeah,
It was
right.
just like it wasn't
Yeah.
good. It didn't work.
But it's not,
And it's a
the problem
DP,
is, it's not up to us to do it.
yeah,
This is
Right.
the
it's
town.
a- it's
They're
a
the
town
ones who
DPW.
say-
They should pay.
Just out of curiosity, the Hanover one, is there any hope for it, or does that start from scratch?
I looked, there were a few plants that I noticed were still there, but they were cut down. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I didn't look at it that closely I didn't assess whether it would come back or not. But when it's cut down that far, you've got to expect that many of the plants won't come back. I mean, the plants that they had no shrubs in that rain garden. There was, I remember there was some sedums and some Montauk daisies and a bunch of grasses. And there was some, I think there might have been some lobelias. I mean, I remember some of the plants that were there, but they were mostly perennials, some lilies and things. I mean, at one point, it was always covered with butterflies and things. I always thought it was a well-performing one, yeah.
But the base is still there, it's just a matter of plants.
The base is still there. The rocks were still there.
So it's just a matter of refurbishing it with plants.
Yeah.
And making sure, like you said, at the start, who's going to maintain
Right.
it. before you do anything.
I didn't know that. Would you be? All right, who supplied the plans for all these other ones?
Well, different ones. I mean, the plants at Birchwood, because it was a unique situation, we did have a grant. And we bought about $350 plants with the grant. But we donated, Garden Magic donated a lot of plants for that. So it's not something that we normally would do.
Is it possible? I would just like to, it's easier just to send it to us. But is it possible for you to take a look at it and just see what it would cost plant wise? To go
Do we
into it.
build it?
Yeah,
Just want to say, because what I'd like to do is that before I
In front.
do my due diligence with pictures, I would like to have a piece of paper saying, guys, blank could get off the pot. Plain English. It's, either we're gonna do it, then take the sign down,
Wasn't there another rain garden at Hanover, somewhere in the municipal building area?
I thought so too. I don't know.
And that was also knocked out.
No, it wasn't.
I don't know, that's what I heard.
No, it was Parsippany's.
I've heard that Hanover had one.
I thought that's the only one we haven't had.
I don't know, so, maybe I can ask them, because I remember them talking about it, that there was one on the Route 10 side. I'm not sure if it was there or not, but it was, but I think the DPW just weed whacked it. Yeah, I mean, I can pass Glenn.